We are in chapter 21, and we're trying to keep on trucking over here. There is, I must say, there's a lot of discussion on this in this chapter among the commentaries, and in fact, one of the pages in my book has like a full page, 2 full pages of commentary without much of the actual verses. So there's a lot of discussion on these in this chapter. And what we're dealing with is the Givonites are requesting. They're angry at Shmuel, and they want to take revenge, so to speak. They want to do some type of a redeem those that it's called the Goyel Hadam, like the Redeemer of blood will avenge the blood that was spilled, so to speak. And what they're basically doing is wrong, and we'll soon see why. So we've done verse 2. The king spoke to the Givonites, and
I think we're up to 5.
And okay, maybe we got up to 5, but I do want to touch upon verse 4.
Okay.
Verse 3, actually. So verse 3 mentions that David said to the Givonites, "What can I do for you, and how can I atone for the sin so that you will bless the heritage of Hashem?" And I might have touched on this, but it really struck me when I was going over it today that there's one thing to get atonement, forgiveness, but what he wants over here is he wants that they should bless the heritage of Hashem. That it seems that there's a high level of atonement when you get the underdog to not only forgive but actually bless. That's what it seems like here. Again, I don't have much. I don't know if there's much written about this. This is just a thought here that David wants them to bless the heritage of Hashem, which seems to be a high level of atonement. Seems, in other words, I don't know that this is necessary in a general sense to get atonement, but it seems that King David wants that this should be there should be a total removal of any slight anger or feelings of anger. And if they bless the heritage of Hashem, that will remove all issues, all of the blame that's on Saul and on the Jewish people will be removed if we get them to bless Hashem. So it really shows an interesting thing about the power of getting a blessing. You do something wrong to someone, you ask them for forgiveness, and then they forgive you is one thing, but then to get them to bless you seems like a powerful level to reach. That's what we see in verse 3. Verse 4 is another point that I want to bring out. Verse 4 has what's called a kri and a ksiv. There's one way that it's written and another way that it's read. In verse 4, we have the Givonites replying that we have no claim of silver or gold against Saul, nor against his house, and we have no innocent man in Israel to put to death. In other words, we only want to kill Saul's family. That's what they want. They don't want to kill other Jewish people, and they don't want money. What this means is that King David offered them money. How could we atone for what Saul did to you? And would you like us to give you $1 million per person that he killed? He killed 7 of you, or he caused many of you to lose your livelihood or whatever. So, would $7 million or $20 million make you happy? If we gave you some big, pieces of gold, bars of gold, would that satisfy you? And they said, no, absolutely not. Now, the word here, that the way we read it is, we do not have any reason for silver or gold. He doesn't owe us any silver or gold. So it's the term, and the way it's read is us. He doesn't owe us any. But then there's a way to, the way it's written is, I don't have any silver or gold by him, meaning he doesn't owe me any silver or gold. So there's the plural and there's the singular. The way it's read is plural. The way it's written in the Hebrew, the way it's written is singular. And the reason for this difference, the Talmud and the Jerusalem Talmud understands that there was actually two meetings that King David had with these people. He had one meeting with them in general as a group, and then he met with them individually. And the reason he met with them individually was he felt that maybe they did not want to be the one to say, we'll take the gold or the silver, because other people are there and around and listening and with them. So therefore, he had them, invited them individually to speak to him personally, privately. And each one in a private session, he offered them money. And they claimed that we don't want money. I don't want money. In other words, that's the reason it says even singular. I do not want your money. I want blood. That was their claim. Now, they had a reason why they wanted blood. Why did they want blood? Because they felt that if we have been divided from the Jewish people, we want to be able to get closer to the Jewish people. We've been separated. With what Saul did to us, it caused there to be a certain level of either harassment to us or just we are looked down upon. And what they want is that there should be a solid situation, a solid example showing that no one should be able to put us down. Even the king is punished for putting us down. And so that was their claim. And therefore, they didn't want the money. They wanted blood. Now, what turns out, interestingly enough, is exactly the opposite of what they wanted. They wanted to get closer to the Jewish. Until now, we separated them from the Jewish people. They had lied to us. They, there was a certain, and then Saul's, according to the understanding that he caused there to be a degrading, a feeling of that they were lower than the Jewish people. So that was what they wanted to correct. It backfired. Their claim backfired. Why did it backfire? Because their claim that they want blood, on the one hand, sounds right, sounds good, because now we're going to even punish a king. Wow, it shows how serious this is. On the other hand, guess what? It also shows that they have no feeling of forgiveness. They are not they are not a forgiving people. Now, you're not a forgiving people, you will never marry into our people. If you're not a forgiving people, you shall never marry into the Jewish people. And that's what King David said. So what they wanted is exactly backfired. They thought that they would get closer and feel part of the Jewish people. And instead, it actually backfired. The reason it backfired is because there's certain traits that are part of the Jewish blood, and they don't have that. Yes, Ezra.
So my question is very simple. I mean, why didn't David say, I'm sorry, but you were the one who lied to us. You did all these things to us. You came to us in treachery, etc. And now you want us to deliver, 7 people, which I have a problem with, because as we had discussed before, if they had said a particular individual, here they didn't. They just said, give us 7 people. And we know that we're not supposed to be able to we're not supposed to deliver anybody under those kinds of circumstances. So I'm a little bit
surprised at this story, how this worked.
confused
Yeah.
at how David reacted.
Right. So the understanding that I have is that David understood that this was what we call a Hiras Shah. This is a special moment where God gave David a sort of like a message that that we need to fix this problem, and whatever it takes. Meaning this is not, you're not going to be following the letter of the law here. You're following the fact that I would like you to give them whatever they ask for. And because of that, there are a few things that are very surprising here. One is that we're going to be allowing the death of more than one person in one day. Normally, when a court does the death penalty, they can only kill one person in a day. And here we're going to be allowing more than that. That's normally never allowed. Two people cannot be executed in the same day. Another issue is children cannot be executed for the sin of their parents. They can't be punished and held responsible for the sin of their parents unless they're going in the same way and doing the same thing that their parents did, and we don't have that here. And we're going to also see that the carcass is left on the body of the dead of these people are left hanging more than overnight, which normally even in a case where someone needs to be hanged in Jewish law, they are hanged right before it gets dark, and then immediately we take them down. So shortly thereafter. So these are a number of laws that we see were not followed. And then the truth is, what Ezra's mentioning is a very good point, that we when do we have such a thing that you'd ever give over a person to another nation? So this is very strange that it's even being discussed, and how much more so with the fact that they lied to us in the first place, and they're the ones who are a little guilty, definitely guilty, and so the story is basically a story of Chilul Hashem, not really if we did the right thing or the wrong thing. It's more about Chilul Hashem here, and that's what we seem to be seeing. This is not the first story in the book of Shmuel where we have this, where there's a lot about desecrating God's name versus following the law or not following the law. It's about, these are stories where we're seeing this desecration of God's name that God wants us to correct. So that seems to be the answer, Ezra, that it has to do with like a Hiras Shah and this order from heaven. And the simple wording for that here is that there's a difference between the judgment in a court and the judgment of Bidei Shamayim from the heavenly court. This is sort of being looked at as it's a judgment from the heavenly court. Yes, Susan.
So this is really showing all the exceptions where the Torah is not followed, because Hashem has given messages to David, and this is what this is about.
I mean, it's not like it's not followed. There is a rule that a king does have the right to do certain things that maybe go around the letter of the law. So it is brought, and there is such a concept that a Bezdin has the right, to do such a thing. That it's not like it's totally never, these type of things are never allowed. There are permits, there are certain licenses that permit a king and possibly a Bezdin to, at certain situations, do things that are beyond the norm. It's similar to what we would call Hiras Shah, where Elijah brought that sacrifice on the Har HaKarmel and proved all the prophets of Baal wrong and had them all killed there. And everyone screamed out, Hashem hu ha'elikim, Hashem hu ha'elikim. They acknowledged and admitted that there's only one God, and that's the God of the Jewish people, and all the other idols, false, things are false. And that was called a hirasha. So there is such a concept within the laws of Judaism that that give a license like that, but it's not the norm. It's very rare, and this is very unique because of, especially as what Ezra was mentioning about, giving people over and executing people without, it really is shocking. Punishing children for a parent and so on. The whole story is a shocking story, and it all boils down to Chilul Hashem. It all boils down to that this is actually going to sanctify God's name versus what happened until now, which was a desecration of God's name, because everyone is looking at us as we didn't take care of our converts, and we should have. We should have respected the special laws about converts and keep our promises. It doesn't look like we're keeping our promise. So we have to, sometimes you could do the right thing, but it looks like you did the wrong thing. And that's a problem. Yes, Ezra.
The word that you translate as to hang, Sepharia translates it as to impale. And the fact that they do it in Givat Shaul, and depending on whose pure you're reading, to me is problematic. Givat Shaul is in the territory of Israel, and they should have been taken down immediately after it happened.
Right.
Why?
Right. That's one of the things. Correct. That's another law that I mentioned that should not have happened if we followed the letter of the law. Is that what you're saying, Ezra? I mentioned
what I'm saying is that it was done in Israel's territory,
mm-hmm.
and we allowed it to happen. And no one did anything to take them down. Was that a decision of the kings, or was that? I don't think it was an oversight. If you're right and you say that they were impaled for 6 months before they were taken down, somebody's head should have been chopped off for allowing such a thing to happen.
Now, the truth of the matter is, I have to admit, I don't know what the word impale means. So you'll have to what does that word mean that you're saying? It means something different than hanging. What is the word that you're?
It's definitely something definitely different. Impaling
It's
someone.
it's what they did.
It's like when somebody puts a sword through you.
Exactly.
Okay. So
or a spear.
Well,
that's what they did to. That's what they did to Shaul.
Right. Okay. Fine. So the translation of Vahikanim in verse 6, if you look at Rashi, Talia, and the Metzudas Tzion also says Talia, and the Radak says Vinitla Oisam. So they definitely were hanged. All the commentaries translate this word as being hanged. I don't think, that's the whole story here that you'll see is all about the fact that they were hanged. And
Rabbi, what chapter and verse are you?
We're in chapter 21, and we are up to verse 5 or 6 over here. 5, we're going to start with verse 5. So anyway, but
Rabbi,
so definitely.
Rabbi, if I can say something.
Yeah.
There could be a confusion because when you impale, you take the body and you put it on top of the spear and it falls down and the body is hanging. Maybe that's what happened. Both. The body was impaled, but then it hung on the stick.
Right.
Both things could have happened.
Yeah, it's possible, right? But Ezra is trying to say that it's surprising that they would have allowed hanging, and he's right that it's surprising that they would have allowed it. But it's
Especially
definitely it's definitely they did it.
To me,
That's
David
part-
was, yeah. To me, David wouldn't. It's amazing that
It-
it happened.
that he would have allowed it, right.
it. Yeah, that I never. It's creepy. Let me just.
Yeah, it definitely is very surprising, but there definitely is that's the meaning here, is that they were hanged. I mean, there's no question about it, that's the translation, that's the understanding here. And it is a very surprising thing. We're going to soon see how this, developed, and how it lasted for a number of months. Yes, Anna.
Can you please explain if 5 children that were actually executed were children of Michael? Was she
Okay, so
future a wife, David's
Yeah.
wife?
yeah, let me read it inside first, because you're ahead, and I don't think I read it inside. So verse 5, they said to the king, the man who annihilated us. Again, we're in chapter 21, verse 5. So they said to the king, the man who annihilated us and who schemed against us, that we be eliminated from remaining within the entire border of Israel. So this is basically saying that the man who annihilated us, because Shaul killed 7, according to one commentary, according to one place in the Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud says he killed 7 of the Givonites, and the man who schemed against us, that we be eliminated from remaining within the entire border of Israel, which is referring to the fact that Shaul made them lose their livelihood and degraded them. So basically, let 7 men of his sons be given to us, and we will hang them for the sake of Hashem in the Giva of Shaul, the chosen one of Hashem. The king then said, I will give them to you. So the king agreed, and based on the fact that this was what he understood from God, that's what he's got to do. Now, it does use this term, the chosen one of Hashem. The reason why he's given this term, the chosen one of Hashem, according to the simple reading of it, it is basically the statement of the Givonites. They're calling Shaul the chosen one of Hashem, emphasizing that. And again, this is the simple meaning of it. This is not the way the Talmud interprets it, but the simple meaning would be that they're saying, if we show that the chosen one of God is punished, he's the chosen one of God, and he's going to have to, he's going to have to receive a punishment. How much more so an individual who's not the chosen one of God is going to have to be careful not to hurt us or tease us or bother us or harass us. And the Talmud says that he's called the Bechir Hashem, that it's this is like a statement from Hashem, that Bechir Hashem, that a heavenly voice called out and said, this is the Bechir Hashem, that don't minimize the greatness of Shaul. He was the chosen one of Hashem based on the fact that he regretted his sins. He was not a sinner that was through and through sin. He was not. He is someone that regretted it. And the Talmud says, you see, someone who regrets their sin is able to be atoned for all their sins. And the Talmud gives 2 proofs, different opinions. One of the proofs is that he even reached a level where he was able to be together with Samuel in heaven. And then the other proof is our verse, Bechir Hashem, that he is considered the chosen one of Hashem. So it's emphasizing the importance of having full regret for one's sins. Now, the king agrees, and he's giving them, going to give these 7. Why do they want 7? So the simple understanding is, well, 7, the 7 of the Givonites died, or, were killed. So that's why they want 7 of Shaul's descendants. it also could be that there is such a commentary. It's questionable how this works, but there is a commentary that mentions that could be these 7 were involved in destroying the city of Nov. In other words, they were part of Shaul's army that were destroying Nov, the city of the Kohanim. But the problem with that interpretation is the Radak proves that many of them were young and possibly not even born yet. So it seems surprising they would have been part of Shaul's army. So it's questionable how to translate it that way. But basically, these are Shaul's descendants. And what it seems like is these are pretty much all of Shaul's descendants, except for one more, whose name is Mephibosheth, who David prays for. And we studied the Talmud about it last week. We went through the Talmud's discussion about how Mephibosheth is the only one who ends up being saved. All the others are from the 7. Yes, Ben.
I wanted to say, I don't know why everybody translates it as hanging. When I'm looking in the dictionary for Oka'ah, which is the Okanum, they wanted to do Oka'ah, that says stigmatized, censored, condemnation, but doesn't say anything about hanging in the dictionary.
So the dictionary is not the source of translating Tanakh. The commentaries are the source of translating Tanakh. Dictionary is very good for modern Hebrew, but the commentaries, like the Metzudas Tzion, Metzudas David, Radak, Rashi, Ralbag, these are the commentaries that help us understand the Talmud and the future story, which you'll have to see, because if you read a little further, you're going to have to explain it that it means hang. Otherwise, it won't flow. So anyway, we're going to continue. Now, we're in verse 7. The king had mercy on Mephibosheth, the son of Yonasan, the son of Shaul, because of the oath of Hashem that was between them, between David and Yonasan, son of Shaul. So when we studied the Talmud about this, which emphasized that King David prayed for Mephibosheth that he should not be one of those 7 that will be indicated by the Urim V'Tumim, which means by the priest's breastplate that would light up and give an indication of who are the 7 that are meant to be killed. Mephibosheth, this is based on the Talmud that we studied last week, that the Talmud says that David davened for Mephibosheth, that he shouldn't be the one. Again, it was up to the Urim V'Tumim, it was up to God's indication who was going to be from the 7. And verse 8 says, so the king took 2 sons of Ritzpah, the daughter of Aya, whom she bore to Shaul. So these are 2 of Shaul's sons, Armoni and Mephibosheth. This is a different Mephibosheth. It's confusing. There's 2 Mephibosheths. This is a Mephibosheth who is the son of Shaul. And David HaMelech had davened for Mephibosheth, the grandson of Shaul, and which was because of the oath that he made with Yonasan. And anyway, so the 2 sons are Armoni and Mephibosheth, and the 5 sons of Michal, the daughter of Shaul, whom she bore to Adriel ben Barzillai HaMechailasi from Mechailah. Now, what's surprising here is that Michal was the wife of David, not the wife of Adriel. But the Talmud says something really interesting, and that is that we see from here that when you adopt children, it is considered as if you gave birth to them, Michal adopted all these kids, even though it says in one place that she didn't have any of her own kids, but her sister, Meirav, had died, and she adopted these kids and raised them. And it's because she's considered like their mother. Now, in the code of law, the different responsa, shilas, chuvas, and books of responsa, they deal with an interesting question. If you adopt a child, is it considered like you fulfilled the mitzvah of pru or vu, of multiplying, of having children? Because the Talmud says it's as if you had a child. Now, if it's as if you had a child, is it exactly as if you had a child? Or is it similar to you having a child? If it's exactly like you had a child, you could fulfill the mitzvah of pru or vu, of being fruitful and multiplying. If it's not considered fully, it's only like as if, so maybe then you didn't fulfill the mitzvah of being fruitful and multiplying. It's as if, well, Hashem will give you reward like like they're your children. They'll consider it like they're your children, but maybe not to the effect of fulfilling the mitzvah of pru or vu. Again, this is a discussion among the shilas chuvas of the responsa, and could be based on an argument in Shulchan Aruch and so on. But this is the story of the 7 descendants of Shaul that are going to be hanged. Okay, and now I'll hand over the mic to